Chinese destroyer conducts dangerous close pass on U.S. warship in South China Sea. 150 yards separation at 28 knots. Pentagon calls it attempted attack. This is Navy wire. February 18, 2026, 06:15 hours local time. USS Chung Hoon, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, conducting routine freedom of navigation operation. International waters, 145 nautical miles southwest of Paracel Islands. Legal operations, standard patrol, nothing unusual, until Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy destroyer appears on radar. The Chinese ship is Type 052D Luoyang III class destroyer. Hull number 161, name, Hohhot. 510 feet long, 7,500 tons, heavily armed, YJ-18 anti-ship missiles, HQ-9 surface-to-air missiles, 2 triple torpedo tubes. This is frontline Chinese warship, modern, capable, aggressive. Commander Lisa Martinez commands the Chung Hoon, 15 years Navy service, 3rd Destroyer Command. She's operated in South China Sea dozens of times, encountered Chinese ships regularly. Usually they shadow at safe distance, professional interaction, radio communications, visual signals, nothing threatening. Standard procedures for vessels operating in proximity to each other. But today is different. The Hohhot doesn't shadow from distance. She closes. Fast. Radar shows Chinese destroyer accelerating, course converging, speed increasing to 28 knots, distance closing rapidly, 5 miles, then 3 miles, then 2 miles. This isn't normal. This is aggressive. Martinez orders her crew to general quarters, battle stations, every sailor to assigned position, weapons systems powered up, fire control radar active. The Chung Hoon is ready for anything, but Martinez hopes diplomacy works. She tries radio contact. Chinese warship Hohhot, this is U.S. Navy destroyer Chung Hoon. Your course creates dangerous situation. Please maintain safe distance per international maritime collision regulations. No response. The Hohhot continues closing. 1 mile, then half mile. The Chinese destroyer is bow on, heading directly toward Chung Hoon's starboard side. This is classic ramming approach, or intimidation tactic. Either way, extremely dangerous at these speeds and closing velocities. What's your immediate response to aggressive vessel approach? Type A for evasive maneuvers, Type B for warning shots, Type L for maintain course. Martinez faces difficult decision. International maritime law requires vessels to avoid collision. Right-of-way becomes irrelevant when collision is imminent. She must act, but changing course might look like backing down, might encourage future aggression. She needs to balance safety against showing weakness to adversarial forces. At 1,000 yards, Martinez orders course change. 10 degrees starboard, opening distance slightly, but the Hohhot adjusts too, matching course change, maintaining intercept vector. The Chinese destroyer is actively maneuvering to close. This isn't accident. This is deliberate. This is hostile action under international maritime law definitions. Stay with me. The next 60 seconds determine whether this becomes international incident or shooting war. The Chung Hoon's Combat Information Center tracks every movement. Radar plots updated every second. Fire control solutions calculated automatically. If the Hohhot launches weapons, Chung Hoon can respond instantly. SM-2 missiles ready. ESSM missiles armed. Phalanx CIWS active. 5-inch gun trained on target. The ship is prepared for combat despite hopes for peaceful resolution. At 500 yards, Martinez tries radio again. Hohhot, you are creating unsafe situation. International regulations require you maintain safe distance. Alter course immediately. Still no response. Chinese destroyer maintains speed, maintains course, closing relentlessly toward potentially catastrophic collision. The bridge watch can see Hohhot now. Visual contact. Gray hull. Chinese naval ensign. Sailors visible on deck. The destroyer is massive, closing at combined speed exceeding 50 knots. If collision occurs at this velocity, both ships suffer catastrophic damage, hundreds of casualties, potential sinking. This is insane. This is reckless. This violates every maritime safety protocol. At 300 yards, Martinez makes final decision. Hard rudder. Emergency turn. The Chung-hoon heels sharply. Turn rate exceeding safe limits for destroyer at high speed. But collision avoidance takes priority over ship handling procedures. The destroyer responds. Turning. Turning. The bow swings away from approaching Chinese ship. The Ho-Hot passes down Chung-hoon's starboard side. Closest point of approach, 150 yards. That's 450 feet. At 28 knots. That's insanely close. Dangerously close. Violates international collision regulations that require safe passing distances. The wake from both ships creates turbulence. The Chung-hoon rocks. Equipment rattles. Sailors grab handholds. This is near miss of catastrophic proportions. Navy Wire has documented close encounters before, but this represents unprecedented aggression, where professional seamanship meets reckless endangerment, the violations, the risks, the implications. Martinez photographs everything: bridge cameras record, combat systems log data. This is evidence, proof of Chinese aggression, proof of dangerous maneuvers, proof of violation of international law, every second documented, time-stamped, geo-referenced, irrefutable evidence for diplomatic protests and potential legal proceedings. The Ho-Hot passes, maintains course, no radio communication, no explanation, no acknowledgement of dangerous pass. The Chinese destroyer continues southwest, away from Chung-hoon, as if nothing happened, as if nearly causing collision between two destroyers is routine operation. The arrogance is stunning and reveals contempt for maritime safety protocols. If you believe dangerous passes constitute hostile acts, type Navy Wire in the comments. Martinez immediately reports to 7th Fleet Command. Admiral, Chinese destroyer Ho-Hot conducted dangerous close pass, closest point 150 yards at 28 knots. We were forced to conduct emergency maneuvers to avoid collision. Request guidance. The report goes up chain immediately. Fleet Commander, Indopacom, Joint Chiefs, Secretary of Defense, President. The analysis begins. Was this attempted ramming or extreme intimidation? Intelligence analysts review all data, radar tracks, communications logs, visual recordings. The conclusion is clear. The Ho-Hot deliberately maneuvered to close, adjusted course to maintain intercept, ignored radio calls. This wasn't navigation error. This was intentional aggressive action. Pentagon spokesman conducts press conference 6 hours later. Today, a People's Liberation Army Navy destroyer conducted unsafe and unprofessional maneuver near U.S. Navy destroyer USS Chung-hoon in international waters. The Chinese vessel approached within 150 yards at high speed, forcing our ship to conduct emergency maneuvers. This behavior violates international maritime collision regulations and constitutes a reckless endangerment. We categorize this as attempted attack on U.S. naval forces. The phrase attempted attack is significant, not unsafe maneuver, not unprofessional behavior. Attempted attack. That's Pentagon saying China tried to ram American destroyer. That's accusation of hostile action. That raises stakes considerably and establishes legal framework for potential armed response under self-defense doctrines. China's response comes quickly. Foreign Ministry spokesman denies everything, claims Chung-hoon violated Chinese territorial waters, claims Ho-Hot was enforcing sovereignty, complete fabrication. The Chung-hoon was 145 miles from Paracel Islands, international waters, beyond any legitimate territorial claim. GPS data proves it. Satellite tracking confirms it. China is lying. Standard procedure when caught in aggression. But Beijing's military recognizes what happened. They pushed too far, nearly caused collision, nearly triggered shooting war, because if Ho-Hot had actually struck Chung-hoon, Martinez would have responded with weapons, self-defense, protecting her ship, protecting her crew. That response would have sunk the Ho-Hot, started broader conflict. China's gamble almost backfired catastrophically. What would you have done commanding Chung-hoon? Comment your response to aggressive approach below. The diplomatic fallout intensifies over following days. U.S. lodges formal protest with China, demands explanation, demands punishment for Ho-Hot's commanding officer, demands assurance this won't happen again. China refuses, maintains fiction about territorial violation, refuses accountability despite overwhelming evidence of aggressive actions. The U.S. response includes military measures, increased freedom of navigation operations, more frequent transits through South China Sea, more destroyers, more presence. Message clear: dangerous passes won't deter American operations, won't restrict U.S. Navy activities. If anything, aggression increases American presence as demonstration of resolve. USS Chunghoon returns to same waters 3 days later, same route, same operations, accompanied by second destroyer, USS John Finn, 2 destroyers instead of 1. China's Hohhot is nowhere nearby. The aggressive destroyer apparently got orders to stand down. Beijing recognized escalation serves no purpose when Americans respond with increased presence. The Navy conducts detailed analysis of incident. Lessons learned. The emergency turn by Martinez was correct decision, avoided collision, saved both ships. But the turn also revealed Chunghoon's handling characteristics. Turn radius, heel angle, speed loss during maneuver. China observed everything, gathered data. This intelligence helps them plan future operations or attacks. The Navy considers tactical changes. Next time Chinese ship closes aggressively, American destroyer maintains course longer, makes China believe collision is certain, forces Chinese captain to turn first. Dangerous game of chicken, but necessary to establish that U.S. ships won't automatically yield to aggressive maneuvers and demonstrate resolve despite collision risks. Superior seamanship, calculated risk, Navy wire. The incident affects broader U.S.-China relations, already tense: Taiwan tensions, trade disputes, technology competition, South China Sea claims. This adds another issue: maritime safety, freedom of navigation, Chinese aggression against American forces. Congress demands action. Senators call for sanctions. Representatives want military response. Administration faces pressure to demonstrate strength without starting war. The Pentagon develops multi-layered response. First layer already implemented: increased naval presence. Second layer involves public disclosure. Release video footage of incident. Show world what happened. Let international community see Chinese recklessness. Let allied nations understand the threat China poses to maritime safety and international order. The video release happens 1 week after incident. Defense Department posts footage online. Bridge camera view shows Hohhot closing. Radio communications played. Emergency turn visible. Close pass documented. The footage is dramatic, shocking. 2 massive warships separated by tiny distance at high speed. Any sailor watching understands how close this came to disaster. International reaction is negative for China. Maritime nations condemn the dangerous maneuver. Australia, Japan, UK, France, Germany, all issue statements supporting U.S. position, calling for maritime safety, demanding China respect international regulations. Beijing faces diplomatic isolation over reckless behavior that even traditional partners find difficult to defend. Third Pentagon response layer involves operational changes. U.S. destroyers operating in South China Sea now travel in pairs minimum. Mutual support. If one ship gets harassed, the other provides backup. Photographic documentation. Witness testimony. Additional combat power if situation escalates to weapons employment. The Navy also adjusts rules of engagement. Ships facing aggressive approach get more latitude in response. Warning shots authorized at closer ranges. Defensive weapons employment permitted if collision appears imminent. These ROE changes communicate American seriousness about protecting vessels from reckless Chinese actions. Which deterrence method works best against aggression? Type A for increased presence. Type B for economic sanctions. Type C for capability demonstration. The Hohhot incident becomes case study at Naval War College. Students analyze Martinez's decisions, evaluate alternatives, discuss international law, maritime collision regulations, rules of engagement, self-defense criteria. The incident provides real-world example of decision-making under pressure with potential for catastrophic consequences. Most students agree Martinez handled situation correctly. She attempted communication, gave Chinese every opportunity to maintain safe distance, only took evasive action when collision became imminent, documented everything, reported properly. Professional response to unprofessional aggression that maintained safety while preserving American credibility. But some students argue she should have maintained course, forced Ho-Hot to turn, established precedent that U.S. ships don't yield to intimidation. This view holds that long-term deterrence requires occasional risk acceptance, showing willingness to accept collision rather than backing down. It's valid argument, different philosophy, more aggressive, higher risk, potentially higher reward if it deters future Chinese provocations. Navy wire analysis suggests both approaches have merit. Martinez prioritized immediate safety, absolutely correct given her responsibility for crew. But future encounters might require different calculus. Calculated risk-taking to establish boundaries. Show China that aggressive maneuvers won't achieve desired effect of forcing American withdrawal. The Chinese perspective reveals their strategic thinking. They tested American reaction, gathered intelligence, measured resolve. The Ho-Hot's approach was deliberate experiment. How close can we get before Americans respond? What are their emergency procedures? How do their ships handle? All valuable data for potential future conflict. But China also learned Americans don't back down. Chung-hun returned to same waters, with reinforcements, more capable, more prepared. The message Beijing received: aggression increases American presence rather than reducing it. That's opposite of desired effect. Chinese strategy backfired despite gathering tactical intelligence. 3 weeks after incident, satellite imagery shows Ho-Hot in port. Shangri-La Naval Base, Hainan Island. The destroyer hasn't deployed since the dangerous pass. Speculation suggests commanding officer was relieved. Disciplinary action. Beijing's way of addressing incident without admitting fault publicly. They punish their captain privately while maintaining public narrative of American wrongdoing. The U.S. Navy tracks this. Intelligence analysts note Ho-Hot's absence from operations. They note replacement commanding officer when ship eventually redeploys. These indicators suggest Chinese leadership recognized their captain went too far, created unnecessary risk, embarrassed China internationally. That's accountability without public admission. Typical authoritarian government behavior that maintains face while addressing problematic actions. Looking forward, expect more incidents. China continues claiming South China Sea, building artificial islands, deploying weapons, harassing ships from other nations. The U.S. continues freedom of navigation operations, contesting illegal claims, supporting allies. This creates ongoing potential for dangerous encounters between naval forces operating in proximity. The risk of miscalculation is real. Next Chinese captain might misjudge distance. Next American captain might maintain course too long. Next close pass might result in actual collision. Then what? Both ships damaged. Casualties. Each nation blames the other. Diplomatic crisis. Potential military escalation. The scenario keeps admirals and diplomats awake at night. Prevention requires communication. Direct military-to-military dialogue. Hotlines. Standard procedures for encounters. Both nations need agreed protocols, safe passing distances, radio communications, professional interaction. These mechanisms exist, but they require both sides to use them, to value safety over scoring propaganda points. The quiz answer: Chinese destroyer Ho-Hot conducted dangerous close pass on USS Chung-hun in South China Sea, approached within 150 yards at 28 knots in international waters, ignored radio communications, forced emergency evasive maneuvers to avoid collision. Pentagon characterized incident as attempted attack, representing unprecedented escalation in description of Chinese naval aggression. Commander Lisa Martinez documented everything. U.S. responded with increased naval presence, public video release, and adjusted rules of engagement. China denied wrongdoing despite evidence. Ho-Hot's commanding officer apparently relieved of command. Incident demonstrates ongoing risks of close encounters between American and Chinese naval forces in contested waters. 3 questions for you. Should U.S. destroyers maintain course when Chinese ships approach aggressively? Can maritime safety protocols prevent conflict between great powers? What happens when dangerous pass actually results in collision between warships? Subscribe to Navy Wire, where elite naval operations meet international maritime law. We cover the incidents, the decisions, the implications, the people maintaining American naval presence worldwide. Hit subscribe. Enable notifications. Next episode reveals submarine tracking operations that expose Chinese underwater expansion. This is Navy Wire. Superior seamanship, calculated risk,